Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Ponsky, your guide to college, and welcome to Being Jewish in College's video series, Kibbutz in 10 Minutes. Today, you're going to get 10 minutes of valuable information from Joy Getnick, the Executive Director of Hillel at the University of Rochester. Thanks so much for joining us, Joy. I appreciate it. So to kick this off, my first question always is, name the Jewish Center on campus.
We are Hillel at the University of Rochester.
Wonderful. And how many Jewish students do you have on campus? And in particular, do you happen to know the breakdown among secular, Reform, conservative, Orthodox, Reconstructionist, humanistic, or any other identity a Jewish student might connect with?
Sure. We think there is between 700 and 750 Jewish undergraduate students. We also have several hundred Jewish graduate students. While I don't know the formal breakdown, I would say that the vast majority of students identify as coming from conservative, Reform, or Jewish backgrounds. We do occasionally have students who identify as coming from a more modern Orthodox setting, but very few at the moment.
Are there kosher food options available to students on campus? And if so, what are they?
There are. And I think that also speaks to the breakdown of demographic, that even though we don't have a huge modern Orthodox population right now, we have, and we would love to be able to provide for all Jewish students. And so the university made the investment in a kosher dining station within one of the main all-you-can-eat dining halls. It's kind of a deli style. And there's also pre-packed, completely sealed kosher options available at a lot of the grab-and-go stations. And then we have a kosher kitchen where we cook for Shabbat dinners.
Wonderful. So speaking of Shabbat dinners, do you have weekly Shabbat dinner or gathering opportunities for students?
We do. We have Friday nights, we have a service, and we have a dinner. The dinner is home cooked. We're happy to accommodate kind of anyone's needs in that space as long as we know what they are. And the service is, it's one service right now. It's an egalitarian service, and we sometimes use the conservative Siddur and sometimes the Reform, sometimes Reconstructionist. It just depends on what the student leading prefers within sort of a standard core. We are certainly open and have historically had multiple services, but it would require student interest.
Wonderful. Just flip it a little bit to the academic side of things. So are there Jewish students, are there Jewish studies majors or minors available to students on campus, or is Hebrew language courses offered as well?
We do have a Center for Jewish Studies, which is part of the Department of Religion and Classics. You can minor in Jewish studies. If you do a major, you have to kind of create it a little bit like out of the core, and then you fill it out more interdisciplinary. But we do have students who are doing that, and we offer multiple levels of Hebrew language, which is great.
Wonderful. In terms of the political and social climate, or social justice climate on campus, how does the university and its administration manage or deal with any issues that might might handle issues of BDS, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, just issues that are going on in the world, and how does the university or the community handle that?
So we are very fortunate that right now we do not have a significant amount of anti-Semitic or anti-Israel or anti-Zionist activity on campus. We also know that if you asked a lot of our students, not our Jewish students, but just students in general, in this sort of binary, am I pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian? We know that it would be more on the pro-Palestinian side on a relatively liberal campus. That's kind of considered what one does. But we also know that our students couldn't really articulate that. And so something that we're working on with the university administration is to help make sure that people understand more about this conflict, how to talk about multiple narratives, and also how to recognize true anti-Israel activity, social media rhetoric, separate from legitimate criticism. And also when that anti-Israel activity clearly stems from a place of anti-Semitism. So if someone is only going after the Jewish state in a way inconsistent with how they're criticizing other causes, or seems to be particularly anti the idea of Zionism and the idea of Jews having a state, well, why? Mm-hmm. And we found the university to be a fantastic partner in trying to help us do more education and training so that, you know, if something happened, we would be able to keep a lid on it.
Wonderful. What challenges, if any, might a Jewish student face being on the University of Rochester campus?
It is a great place to be Jewish. And we do not hear our students, you have students on campuses where there is a lot of BDS or anti-Semitism, and that's really hard. We just don't have it openly on our campus. I think sometimes students don't always want to talk about their Zionism publicly, like they have their private Jewish space and then a diverse group of friends just because they don't want to get into it. But that's a choice. I think that the challenge would be if a Jewish student wanted a certain level of practice or certain type of practice that we don't have enough of a cohort to do. So if a student wanted an Orthodox minyan right now, or would only eat kosher food, we have the kosher station, but you'd have to work your day around making sure that's the one option. If a student is looking for a cohort of people to more intensely observe Simchat Torah or Saturday morning Shabbat, like those would be challenges. But I think also like that's true of every campus. Or if a student wants to do a lot of Jewish social justice, we have hundreds of Jewish students, but they have really diverse interests. And so each year, the cohort sort of develops with what are shared experiences. And this is a terrible answer, but that is the answer.
Oh, no, I actually think it's a wonderful answer.
Okay. It's just, and that's true anywhere.
I think it's also about the culture of the institution. And so I think that it's a nice, it's a nice representation of that. Can you talk about the most popular or well-attended program or programs that you put on per year to get students who are both Jewish and not Jewish involved in what you're doing? Sure.
It depends on the year. There are years when Shabbat is really a centered highlight. We also have a really fun Hanukkah party, non-COVID, and a Purim celebration. High holidays are a great time because they draw out a lot more students on campus who identify as Jewish, but maybe aren't looking for regular Jewish activities as part of their daily life, which I think is how many people experience Judaism in general. Like they are Jewish and then they have what they're doing and then they pop in and out of Jewish experience. But for Hillel, it's nice when everyone comes together, and it's nice for all of our students to see who the other students are who choose to engage and connect and know they have that shared heritage and community, even if they mostly see each other in the Student Activity Center at a different, place and time.
Perfect. Can you tell us one interesting piece of information about the University of Rochester that you would want people to know?
It's this beautiful blend of a small college liberal arts feel with access to tier 1 research opportunities. So our undergrad students, it's a relatively small feel. It's a beautiful kind of brick building, green quad environment. And then our students can work in incredible labs in science and psychology or social science internships. And it's rare, I think, that you find someplace that does both of those well. It's either a small college feel or it's a big university. And we have mastered the blend.
Perfect. And finally, my last question is, what do you love most about leading the Jewish community at the University of Rochester?
I love working with our students. And I know that many of my answers maybe were like more nuanced and complex, but I think that is the U of R student experience. It's holding multiple truths and being proudly Jewish, but deciding when and where you showcase that. It's thinking intentionally about, is my Jewish experience about ritual practice or my relationship with Israel or social action or community? And people are engaged in that conversation, not in an overwhelming way, but in a meaningful way, so that they can craft a Jewish life that they want. And I love being in a space where I get to help facilitate that.
Awesome. Well, those are my 10 questions and in 10 minutes. This was wonderful, but thank you so much for sharing more about Jewish life at the University of Rochester. And we will give people who are watching the opportunity to get in touch with your office and the university to learn more. But thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.